What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to Week 5 of my weekly NFL Picks show for the 2014-2015 NFL season. So before we get into the picks for Week 5... One sec. Yes? Oh, hi, Week 4. How are you? Oh! Ow. Bridgewater's finest, bringing you the funny since 2012. So in case you couldn't tell from my little skit, I kind of took it on the chin in Week 4. The results weren't great straight up or against the spread. They were disastrous on the Big 3. So that's where we're going to start with this show. We'll get last week's results out of the way before we get into Week 5. So Week 4 on the Big 3 against the spread, I struck out 3 swings, 3 misses. I missed them all. I told you to take Atlanta minus 2.5. That, of course, didn't work out because they got absolutely blown out by Minnesota. I told you to take New Orleans minus 3. That didn't work out because they got curb stomped by Dallas. And I told you to take Carolina plus 3.5. And oh buddy, not a great game for the Panthers. They looked horrible in that game, losing very convincingly to Baltimore. So unfortunately I went 0-3 in Week 4. That has me sitting at only 4-7-1 on the Big 3 against the spread so far on the year. Definitely not where we want to be, but within the next couple of weeks here, we're going to haul that thing back up to 500. Aside from those 3 misses in the Big 3 against the spread, I was 5-5 against the spread last week in all the other games. Unfortunately, we do have to include those 3, so unfortunately I was only 5-8. Which also knocks me down below 500 for the season. That just barely, but it puts me at 29-30-2 through 4 weeks of the season. Definitely not where I want to be against the spread, especially where I finished last year, I think 21-13. So we definitely want to start pulling that up a little bit higher. So 29-30-2 so far, 4-7-1 on the Big 3 against the spread, but we're going to do better. Just as a commentary, Week 4, I saw some of the sloppiest, worst defensive football that I have seen in a long time. I'm a guy that loves good defensive football. Some people call it boring. I don't. I find it very strategic. And there was some horrible defensive play in Week 4. There's a lot of teams that have some defensive problems that they really got to deal with if they want to have anything remotely resembling a successful season in 2014. So let's take a look at the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks from Week 4, and I really didn't do too much better than I did against the spread. My platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks, I only went 1-3. A couple of really shocking losses in here. We'll start with the bronze pick. I told you to take the Washington Redskins to beat the New York Giants, and that definitely didn't work out. The Giants roll over Washington 45-14. That's back-to-back games for the Giants where they put up at least 30 points. So maybe the offense is finally starting to turn around, and the offense looked pretty damn good in this game, or it may have just been Washington's defense looking that bad. This was the first sputter by Kirk Cousins with that offense, and looks like it might need a little bit of retooling, but I do think the offense is going to be okay in Washington. That actually leads me to my first question of the week. Before we go any further in the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, I want to talk about this whole Washington Redskins name controversy. I'm not going to give my opinion on it too much. I am pretty firmly on one side of the fence about it, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm in a bit of a spirited discussion with the football guru on the YouTube Football Prognosticators Facebook page. We're kind of talking back and forth a little bit about it. He's on one side, I'm on the other. I want to hear what you guys have to think, because I related it a little bit to the tomahawk chop dance that we see in Kansas City, which has an 81% white population, and how that isn't seen as racist or even questionable, really, but the Redskins name is. So I want to hear what you guys have to think about the Washington Redskins name. Do you think it should be changed? Do you not think it should be changed? That's the first question I want you guys to think about. Going back to last week's picks, we go to the silver pick. I told you to take Atlanta to beat Minnesota. Holy crap, does Atlanta look horrible on the road. They give up 41 points to a Minnesota team with their backup, now starting quarterback who did get injured in the fourth quarter, and without Adrian Peterson, and they just walked over Atlanta's defense. Atlanta had nothing for them, beat them 41-28. This is such a weird Jekyll and Hyde team we have here in Atlanta. They're so good at home, and they've been so dominant, and the offense has been almost impossible to stop. And then they get on the road, and they've basically put up two goose eggs, at least defensively, on the road. For the gold pick, I told you to take Pittsburgh to beat Tampa Bay. That didn't work out on, I'm not going to call it a fluke play because it wasn't a fluke, but I think if you run that game 99 more times, Pittsburgh wins probably 90 to 95 of those games. Came down to just a last couple of minutes touchdown by Tampa Bay. They win that game 27 to 24. I'm not going to feel too bad about it. Pittsburgh didn't put themselves in the position to not have that happen to them, so when it happens, I can never be too upset about it, because it's like, well, you had plenty of opportunities to not be in that position, but kudos to Tampa Bay. They did what they needed to do. They got that touchdown pass right at the end of the game, and they pulled it out, man, so kudos to Tampa Bay. The Platinum pick is the one pick that I did get this week, going 3-1 so far on the season for the Platinum pick. Everything else looks a little wonky. I told you to take Indy to beat Tennessee. No shock here. Indy puts up 41 points on the Titans, winning that game 41 to 17, and no one is shocked. So I got my Platinum pick. I didn't get the gold, the silver, or the bronze. I'm 3-1 on the Platinum. I'm only 1-3 on my gold pick, and I'm 2-2 on both the silver and the bronze. So overall, straight up in week 4, I only went 5-8, the same rank that I went on my against the spread picks. That has me 34 up, 27 down on the season. In the private pick'em, we picked up a couple of more people. We're now up to 37 members of the private pick'em pool, and that is very cool. Keep joining up if you haven't joined the private pick'em yet. I unfortunately sit 25th place out of 37 teams in the pick'em pool. 281 out of 499 possible confidence points, a clip of only 56%. This has been a disappointing season for me so far. In week 4, I only managed to pick up 36 of 91 possible confidence points, only a clip of 40%, and in these little weeks, it's important to do as good as you possibly can. I did the exact opposite of that. I played very poorly. Shout out to our week 4 winner, and it's the second time that he has won a week this season. We're looking at Teddy Ted's Varsity squad. Teddy Ted's Varsity squad went 9-4 in week 4. Very good total there, picking up 63 of 91 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 69%, but it was not good enough to dethrone the overall leader, which is still Too Easy Part Deux. Too Easy Part Deux is 39 up, 22 down on the season, picking up 337 of 499 possible confidence points. That is a clip of 68%. That has him ahead of me by a good 12%. So I really have my work cut out for me here to try to get caught up. Let's see if we can't crack inside at least the top 20 after this week. I'll take this point in the video to remind everyone that if you go to the description in my video, you can find all of my Against the Spread picks for Week 5. You can find out all the details for joining the Bridgewater's Finest private pick'em pool. You can find all my results from last week, as well as the links to other high-quality YouTube football prognosticators. So go to the description of the video. You find all that information there. Fully admit, took it on the chin in week 4. Let's do better here in week 5. We're going to start with the big 3 against the spread picks for week 5. My number 3 pick on the big 3 against the spread this week comes in the Kansas City at San Francisco game. San Francisco favored by 6 at home. It's not that I think San Francisco has played poorly this year. I look at that team, and aside from, of course, the problems that they have on the with their legal issues that some of the members of their team have been having, it just seems like that franchise is a shade dysfunctional. There's been all the reports in the media, of course, that, oh, Jim Harbaugh's lost the room and everything like that. I don't necessarily know that that's true, although I do know that he'll never lose his scowl. But I watch that team on the field, and it's just, I don't know if it's Kaepernick's head or what it is, but the team's not performing the way that I expected them to come into this season performing. Meanwhile, I take a look at KC, and KC really impressed me against New England. Again, that's partly due to their play and partly due to the complete ineptitude of New England's defense in week 4. Even though the game's in San Francisco, I consider 6 points to be too many here. So I'm going to tell you actually to take the dog on the road. I'm going to tell you to take KC plus 6 in San Francisco. Note, I do think San Francisco wins this game. I just think it's going to be too close to call. So KC plus 6, that's my call. My number 2 pick on the Big Three against the spread this week comes in the Cincinnati at New England game. This game is interesting because there's no line on it right now. The line is still New England -0. Like there's no line on it whatsoever. They're 100% split, and this is multiple resources who are reporting that there is still no line on this. So you're asking me, Justin, why would you pick it? There's no line. Like, doesn't that make it, really not challenging? Doesn't that just mean who you think's going to win the game straight up? I'm 4-7-1. Give me a break. Actually, I picked this game for 2 reasons. One, because it's a fairly easy ATS call between who I think is actually going to win the game, and in this case, it's Cincinnati. You got arguably one of the best teams in football going up against New England, who has been unable to play defense, it seems, at all this year. Even though they've got playmakers on defense, that defense should be better than it is. So I'm going to take Cincinnati because I think Cincinnati's going to win the game straight up. So obviously I'm going to take Cincinnati +0 on the line. And if you can get them at like a +0.5 a point or a +1 or something like that because the game's in New England, jump all over that shit because I think Cincinnati's going to dominate. Second reason I picked this is because it leads into my second question for the week. What do you guys make of the New England situation? Does Belichick's system not work? Is Brady's head not where it needs to be? Do they just not have the healthy playmakers on offense that they need to run that system? What's your take on the New England situation? Answer me that and answer me about the Redskins controversy. Go to it. But yeah, so Cincinnati +0. And my number 1 play on the Big Three against the spread this week comes in the Pittsburgh at Jacksonville game. Pittsburgh favored by 6.5 points on the road. No shock here that Jacksonville is the dog, even though they're at home. It's so sad for Jacksonville, too. They have far and away probably the worst defense in football right now. I think they've given up the most yardage, most points, pretty well across the board. But they've got playmakers on offense, and that's what's so frustrating about it, is that the offense could do things. If the defense wasn't so bad and they didn't get so far behind in these games, then it kind of pigeonholes the offense. It's kind of unfortunate. It doesn't surprise me, however, that Pittsburgh is favored by this much, even though they're on the road and even though they lost last week. Because like I said, last week's loss, not really a fluke, but, it happened late in the game. And Pittsburgh, by all rights, Pittsburgh should have put themselves in a position where that couldn't have happened to them. Although this line did open up at Pittsburgh -7 most places that I saw it, which means some money is coming in on Jacksonville. Well, don't believe all that garbage, because Pittsburgh's going to destroy them. Pittsburgh -6.5 on the road is my number 1 play on the Big Three against the spread this week, and I don't see how that could not work out. That being said, I'm 4-7-1. Okay, folks, now it's time to take a look at the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for Week 5 in the NFL. We're going to start with the bronze pick, where, again, I am 2-2 on the season. For my bronze pick, the Detroit Lions hosting the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo made interesting news this week, making a voluntary starting quarterback change from E.J. Manuel to Kyle Orton while they're leading their division. I suppose it's not surprising given that they do have, statistically speaking, the worst offense in that division, having only scored 7 touchdowns in 4 games. Buffalo hits the road this week into Michigan to face the Detroit Lions, a team that kind of mirrors them statistically at least. Detroit is also leading their division at 3-1. They are unbeaten at home. They have the worst offense statistically in that division, but they do have the best defense statistically in that division. Big difference here is Lions have a much better offense than Buffalo does. Despite having decent statistical numbers, the Buffalo Bills have struggled all season to defend the pass, so I think Matt Stafford is going to be able to throw all day on the Bills. For my bronze pick, I'm going to take the Detroit Lions at home to beat Buffalo. My silver pick sees the San Diego Chargers playing host to the New York Jets. Chargers currently lead the AFC West with a mark of 3-1, one of the best offensive teams in football, and they've got a pretty good defense there too. Meanwhile, L-A-S-T, we're last place. Jets are 1-3 on the year. They've only scored 8 touchdowns in 4 games. They've given up many more points than they've scored, and this is just a mismatch any way you slice it. The Jets defense can play a decent game when they want to, but it's so infrequent that it's hard to bet on them. Meanwhile, we take a look at the Chargers. They've only scored 10 touchdowns themselves, but they're just not giving up points. But I'm going to take the Chargers here in a walk. Silver pick, the San Diego Chargers at home to beat the New York Jets. Going to the gold pick where I'm 1-3 on the year, as I mentioned before. In the gold pick, we have the Washington Redskins playing host to the Super Bowl champs, Seattle Seahawks. Skins are 1-3 on the season and are in the basement of the NFC East. However, their one win did come at home. The Seahawks sit in second place in the NFC West at 2-1 behind the 3-0 Cardinals, but their one loss did come on the road. Redskins defense hasn't really been able to stop anybody this year, but the offense has looked pretty good. They do have 12 touchdowns in 4 games. On the road, the Seahawks are a different team. It is indisputable that they are a different team when they're not playing in Seattle in front of that home crowd. And the Skins, at the very least, did win their one game so far this year at home. What does this all mean? The Seahawks are going to kick the shit out of the Redskins in Washington. Yeah, let's face it, folks. Washington is teed right up for the Seahawks to get a real good drive, 400 or 500 yards out there in the fairway. The Seahawks should not have any problem really in this game, barring some massive injury. So I'm going to take the Seahawks on the road to beat the Redskins. That's the gold pick. And the platinum pick sees the Philadelphia Eagles at home facing the St. Louis Rams. Eagles are 3-1 on the season, 2-0 at home. They're leading their division. The offense has looked real good. The defense, kind of suspect. Meanwhile, the Rams are the worst offensive team in football, having only scored 5 touchdowns in 3 games. Granted, the Rams' only win this year did come on the road, but at the same time, we're talking about Philadelphia here. I don't think the Rams are going to have too much on defense here to stop that Eagles offense. On the platinum pick, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles at home to beat the St. Louis Rams. Now let's take a look at the rest of my straight-up picks for Week 5, 2014-2015 NFL season. Here they come. That's the Week 5 show for you, folks. Comments, hate, and love, you know where they go. Comments section below. Remember to answer the questions for me. What do you think of the Redskins name controversy? And what do you think is going on with the New England Patriots? Can they right their season, or is this just something that needs to be blown up? Now it's time for the comment of the week. We debuted this segment last week, so we're going to go to the comment of the week. This week's comment of the week comes from a good friend, longtime subscriber of mine, Holly Gordon. Last week, of course, I asked you what team did you think right now was the best team in football. Holly's answer, the best team in football is Arizona. 3-0 and not just a lucky draw. They beat San Diego and San Francisco. Probably won't beat Denver in Denver, I agree, but keep going like this and they'll win the NFC West. Pretty big statement there given the other teams that are in the NFC West, but Arizona has been extremely impressive to me as well. So great comment there, Holly. You have won the comment of the week for the Week 4 video and into Week 5. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We will see you again for week number 6.